Good afternoon, everyone. It's Weather United, and in today's video, we're going to update you on this weekend's snowstorm that could be pretty impactful, bringing the threat for very heavy snowfall, strong winds, possible whiteout conditions across the northern Rockies into the Pacific Northwest, including for portions there of the northern high plains. Now, if you are new to the channel and you like the detailed weather content, consider subscribing if you're new, hitting that like button, and sharing this video with your family and friends so we can get this out to as many people as we can possible. Here's a current look at your current weather conditions across the United States, timing where that winter storm actually is right now, and we can see on the satellite imagery, it is over Oregon, it is over Washington, it is now approaching northern Idaho and even Montana with all this cloud cover up here to the north. This has helped flattening a ridge of high pressure over California, over Nevada, and we're going to be seeing much cooler temperatures, but also there's going to be a lot of heavy snowfall and strong winds as this pushes towards the southeast into, say, Wyoming, northern Colorado, and eventually impacting over here in portions of the northern high plains such as eastern Montana and Wyoming. Yellowstone can get quite a bit of snow out of this, but otherwise much of the country right now looking pretty quiet. Actually, not much clouds to speak of in this video today, which is nice to see. So a really pleasant Friday is on tap for much of the nation. Now, before we really dive deep into this video, timing out that snowstorm on the weather models, I did want to share something very important for you all that are wondering, where is the time and date is, what model am I looking at, what perimeter? It is all on the top right of the screen above my fabulous head here. So if you look on the top here, you can find the NAM model, which is the model type, the perimeter type, which is our precipitation composite reflectivity forecast, and when the model was initialized. So it was initialized at 12Z this morning, or about 5 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and what day of the week, what time of the week am I covering. So 4 important keynotes is on the top right of the screen, and that way you all know what day of the week I'm covering in and more awesome cool stuff. So hopefully I did not confuse you all and bore the heck out of you all, but that is quite important to myself and to you all that are watching this video. That's my job, is making sure you all understand with what I'm talking about. So now let's talk about where this snowstorm actually is. So this is Friday afternoon on October the 21st. We got quite a bit of snowfall over northern Idaho, over western Montana, over also the northern Cascades of Washington, and even for portions there of southern British Columbia, Canada. But the pattern is going to be changing, as we can see here. So by Saturday morning, we're seeing moderate to heavy areas of snowfall over Idaho, over Montana, approaching Yellowstone National Park by about, say, 8 or 9 in the morning. And by the time that you see on your screen, that is local time. That is Pacific Daylight Time. You're going to want to add on a couple of hours depending on what time zone you're in. So here's a look at Oregon. Here from Saturday morning, there's a look at that snowfall, and this continues all the way to Sunday afternoon. Look at that snowfall all the way across Park City, Utah, over Salt Lake City. If you are in northwestern Colorado, if you're in Wyoming, if you're in Montana, wow, it's going to be very impactful snowstorm here. That's why there are winter storm warnings. We'll look at that kind of towards the end of the video, because this is a very impactful storm that's developing. And then this continues all the way to Monday morning, where you have that snow that's going to continue over the western Dakotas, like North Dakota, South Dakota, over eastern and eastern Wyoming, over southeastern and eastern Montana. Then another snowstorm tries to slam, or another Pacific storm, we should say, gets into the Pacific Northwest by the middle of next week. So really active weather, folks, that is coming in, and that's what the new model guidance suggests to us in today's video, that we're going to have a couple of very active storms. The pattern's quiet now for much of the east, but it's going to turn more active by early next week. And we can see there by Monday afternoon, snow chances for northern New Mexico, and yes, maybe some severe weather potentially over northern Texas, over Oklahoma, over Kansas, perhaps even over northern Missouri. Even so, it's not well indicated here. I think we're going to see at least a marginal risk for severe weather at the very most. Snowfall totals all the way through the next 84 hours. That's through Monday afternoon, and we can see with what the forecast is calling, quite a bit of snowfall for the Intermountain West, especially over Montana, over Wyoming, over Idaho, over the Colorado Rockies. There could be some areas, folks, that might end up getting about 1 to 3 feet. But again, these are the higher elevations. The lower elevations, more than likely about 2 to 5 inches of snow. So not a whole lot at the surface because of the temperatures are going to be warmer, but not only if they're warmer or colder, we're going to have orographic effects and we're going to have snow shadowing. So on the leeward side of the on the leeward side where the air descends, you're not going to get as much snow as on the windward side where the wind is going up and over, where there's a lot of moisture that squeezes out. That happens, and so you're going to get a lot more snow, of course, similar to with what rainfall is going to be like. And then you can see over the Cascades some snowfall, not as much for California as what we were hoping for, which means the drought is going to only get worse from here. And the reason why for that is, or the reason why we're going to see this winter storm is a couple of things. The first thing is this trough is going to drop down. You can definitely see this whole low pressure with the speed max going over California, generating some very strong offshore winds, high fire danger, probably critical conditions, certainly in the deck of cards. So wildfire starts are a certain possibility for the West and also for portions of Southern California because of that trough. But we can also see that this is pretty deep here. This is digging down into the Four Corners, and so that's going to bring in much cooler air throughout the region. But then we have a very complicated forecast. So by Monday, in yesterday's video, we were thinking maybe this low pressure system could generate quite a bit of severe weather because it's more organized, but now it looks like this is kind of ripped into two lobes. We got a lobe up here. We also got a lobe down here in the Four Corners. And so that complicates exactly how severe will the weather get now. We were thinking maybe a slight risk or an enhanced risk for the northern plains. That has now since backed off. Now we're calling for a marginal risk for severe weather because of the whole inconsistency and the high degree of uncertainty in the models. But we could get a pretty good idea. We have this system that's going to exit that speed max, but we have another speed max approaching northern Texas over Oklahoma by Tuesday morning. And again, that's going to generate a lot of lift, dynamical lift, some instability, some moisture return out of the south, and also some wind shear. So we're going to see at least maybe some degree of severe weather. It is still to be announced of how significant it will be. Probably nothing too big for the time being because I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to scare you all. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to give you my own opinion. And right now, I think probably a marginal risk at the very most is expected in the Texas and Oklahoma area, unless the pattern changes where we do get this trough that is not as intense. It's more innocuous. It's kind of all buried up in here within the westerly type flow. So now, what is the surface going to look like? Well, if we take a look here, again, we can see our pressures at the surface going to fall. And the reason why this system over here over the northern plains deepens is because we have height falls. Temperatures aloft are cooling. We get dynamical cooling. Okay, and we get divergent flow. If you take note of this, think of the atmospheres in three-dimensional, right? We don't have a two-dimensional atmosphere. We have a three-dimensional. So the upper level flow is diverging aloft. So we can see this flow kind of splitting off in this configuration, right? So we get a divergent flow aloft. We get surface pressures at the surface that are dropping rapidly because the air, it has to fill in that void. Because if air rises, diverges aloft, you bring air at the surface, and that's why you get lower pressure. So that's what all happens here, and we can see the ending result here on the GFS is a 987 millibar. Very strong winds on the back side of this, so we could see some damaging winds, power outages certainly out of that winter storm, or that storm system, we should say, as it heads into Hudson Bay area. Here's a look at the latest watches, warnings, and advisory from the National Weather Service as of about 12:30 this afternoon, Pacific Daylight Time, October 21st. We can see we have freeze watches already issued for Western Nevada over one of the counties there in California. We have high wind warnings, wind advisories over northern Arizona, southeastern California, southern Nevada, so all in this area. And then look at what we got here. All these pink colors right here, not the fire weather warnings, don't get confused by that, but these brighter pink areas indicate winter storm warnings over Yellowstone, so moderate to heavy snowfall, whiteout conditions, very inclement weather is anticipated, including for northern portions there of Idaho and western Montana under winter storm watches. This is a impactful storm because, yep, you're going to have wind impacts, you're going to have fire weather warning impacts. That's what we have. So definitely a non-impactful storm. This is definitely going to bring in a lot of problems over the Intermountain West, over even California, where you have freeze warnings even issued. So definitely a huge change with the weather pattern coming through the area. But while back east, pretty quiet for right now. But you know, what goes west goes east, and therefore impacts we'll see with what the National Weather Service shows in the next 3 to 5 days, if anything new gets issued here in the Midwest and the Great Lakes. But you know what gets issued? Weather United. Here at Weather United, we keep you updated every single day on any changes in the weather pattern that need to be announced to you all here on the channel. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing right now so you get the latest detailed updates on an everyday basis. Yes, I'm here every day keeping you all on your toes when it comes to the weather. Also, hit that like button and share this video with their family and friends. Let's get this out to as many people as we can, because yes, this is an impactful storm. Just because it doesn't impact as many people doesn't mean we don't talk about it. All right, so if you could do that for me, that would really help out a lot. But anyways, thank you all for watching today's update on this winter storm. I will possibly have another update tomorrow on this system as it remains a threat. Thank you all for watching, and thanks for tuning in.